Hey everybody, Nick here, and today I got a review for you of an unusual knife, which is this little custom knife by a guy named Marthinus Van Wyk, who is a South African knife maker, apparently based out of Pretoria, and isn't particularly well known. And so I want to thank very much my buddy Mike for sending this guy along. I will say, I don't actually know the original price on this knife, but I know that it was sold to my buddy Mike for about $300. So, take that for what it's worth. Let's do a size comparison real quick. Here is your Spyderco Delica, your Ontario Rat number 1. In many ways, the blades are about identically sized between these two. Ontario Rat number 2, another South African knife, the Bugger EXK. Interesting, and yeah, I think that'll do for your size comparisons. So let's go ahead and jump into the good, the great, the bad, and the ugly of this unusual knife. There is a lot of good here. First and foremost, actually, is the maker's mark. And it's really detailed, and I'm going to try and capture that. But you can see here that if you actually look closely, it may not even be visible, but it says Marthinus Van Wyk, and then it says, I believe, Pretoria, South Africa. That's one heck of a detailed maker's mark. I don't know how he's printing it, but I'm kind of impressed by it. But anyways, it looks nice. It's a pleasant thing. So, gotta give credit there. Speaking of which, the blade on the hole where it is a very nice thing. I mean, the finish on it is great. It looks like some kind of a hand-rubbed sort of finish. The shape of the blade is also pretty great. I don't know why, but there's something very attractive about this. It's not too tactical. It's a nice, good old-fashioned sort of knife blade, and it's well done in that way. It's also very thin behind the edge. That's tough to show off on a video, but it is, which makes it a pretty good slicer. This is built to cut, and the stock on the blade isn't very thick either, so that's kind of a beautiful thing. The blade itself has one neat thing, which is if you look at the back of the blade here, it's smooth right up until the lock bar cutout. Here, I'll try and pop it open for you and show you in a little bit more detail. If you see right in here, come on now, I think you can focus there, camera, there we go. You can see that there's kind of a little elbow cutout, which is what the lock bar will eventually drop into. I'll show it to you from this side. Lock bar just pops in there. And that's kind of a nice thing. It's unusual to have this much of the blade flush with the edge, but it is nicely flush. Little detail, but it's a nice one. So, there you go. That's good. Speaking of other little details, I am loving the backspacer on this knife. Take a look at this. It's completely flush, and it's nicely polished, kind of matches the blade, and it just goes all the way around the knife. You can see that there's even a little cutout here for the flipper tab to pop through, and it just barely clears. The backspacer here is well done. Absolutely well done. Simple, but beautifully done. Good there. Speaking of simple but beautiful, on the inside of the titanium, hold on, let me grab a flashlight to show this off. Here we go. Hopefully I can get this visualized, but if you look on the inside of the titanium, you can see here that the maker has actually done a bit of perlage on the inside there, which is really neat. I mean, that takes work, and that's something that you will never see on the inside, and so kind of a neat little effect there. Big fan of that. It's a little detail, but it's a cool one. So there you go. The ergonomics on this knife are actually really good. Because the clip is thin, it just disappears in your hand. The size is about right. It lands naturally in the hand. Then finally, on the good side, the action on this is really nice. It's on some kind of a non-captive bearing from the looks of it. I'm trying to gaze in with the flashlight. Kind of something along the lines of IKBS, I think. But whatever the heck it is, it's really stellar. The knife deploys, no problem whatsoever, and, 100% of the time. And then it's not quite fall shutty, but it's pretty damn good. I'm a big fan of the overall action here. So that's what you got on here in terms of your good. You got a great maker's mark, which is on a really great blade in terms of finish, in terms of shape, and in terms of cutting ability. You've got the perlage on the titanium on the inside, the nice backspacer here. You've got really good details all over, good ergonomics, and a really good action. Let's talk about the grate of this particular knife. The grate on this knife is kind of a nerdy thing. It's something that knife guys get, but nobody else in the world seems to. And that's the sound of the lockup. When you pop this guy shut, when you pop it open, it just sounds spectacular, and it's really hard for me to get this across through the camera. I'm going to try and flip it over by the microphone over here. It's got a nice little shut like a bank vault sound to it. Other knives that have something similar are the Spyderco Techno and Sleesh Bowie, but the sound on this guy is just spectacular. They've done such a good job at tuning that, and the lockup on the knife is like a bank vault too. I mean, you can see it goes straight to 50%. There's not a hint of lock stick. It's 100% solid on every axis. I mean, the lockup on this is spectacular, but that sound just... oh man, is that nice, and it brings me some joy. So that's the grade here, which is the sound that has apparently really been tuned in, and the lockup that it represents. Big fan of that. I know, giant knife geek. Whatever. Moving along, let's talk about the bad. There are only two bad issues here. First off, there's no marking on this that would indicate the steel. That seems like a little detail, but it is something I always find useful, especially if you pick something up aftermarket or whatever like that. It's nice to be able to know what kind of steel you're working with. A skilled sharpener will sit down and figure it out pretty quickly. Oh, this is probably 154 or S30V or something like that. But it is nice to know that, and I wish with this really good printing technology, he could have put a little note on there someplace. The other issue that's bad to me is the jimping on the flipper tab. I'll see if I can show it off for you here, but if you see, it's really sharp, and so it not only digs into your finger in an unpleasant way, but it collects gunk in a way that I'm not in love with at all. And more importantly, because it's relatively sharp, when this guy is hanging in your pocket, it's going to be slowly digesting your wallet and whatnot in there. It's going to wear out your pocket with these hard corners. And so you got yourself, again, a pocket pecker that's going at whatever in there with this exceptionally sharp little bill. So that's bad. That's something I really don't care for, and I really wish he'd gone with some less aggressive form of jimping, or at least rounded that off. If this were my knife, I probably would go at this with a sharpening stone to knock the edges down just a little bit. So there you go. That's your bad. There's no steel marking, and the flipper jimping ain't so stellar. Let's talk about the ugly. So on the ugly side, first off, the clip isn't well done. You can see here that it's actually the end of the amount of clip that can kind of get around your pants is about here. So you're going to have this much clip hanging out your pants, this much knife, that is. And that's kind of ugly. It sticks out way farther than it needs to and is exposed to more damage than it needs to. Not a fan of that. Also, the ramp to get it onto your pants is very shallow. Not so impressed there. Second ugly issue is the handle on this guy has been blasted to within an inch of its life. A bead blast finish is pretty common in the knife world, but this is really sandpapery. I really don't like the feel of this, and it feels like it just stayed way too long in the sandblasting booth. So I wish he dialed that down, or just gone with something a little bit more conventional, like a sort of stonewash finish. This is just, it feels unpleasant on your fingers, given you've got plenty of traction here. It might be decent enough in the Vaseline factory, but I don't know, the rest of the time, not a fan. Next issue is the pivot screw here. It's a really big, very shallow Torx screw. I'm going to see if I can show you just how shallow this is. I mean, this is shallower than most American reality TV. It's got a problem there. And apparently my buddy Mike contacted the maker, and the maker said, yeah, I don't encourage people to take it apart. They should just send it back to me. Apparently something about really tight tolerances, press fit parts or things. Whatever. But the thing is, that's ugly. If you're using weird proprietary screws, I don't like that ever. But I like it even less when you're a small maker, a small manufacturer. If you're a big company and you feel the need to do that, you suck. But you suck a little bit less, because at the very least, in general, I can trust that you're going to exist in 5 years to service the knife, and that even today, you've got more than one person available to do so. A small company like this, if this guy goes under, a knife with bearings and an internal stop pin has just become kind of disposable, because you don't have the tool and he's not around to make one. That's just really ugly, so I think small makers particularly need to make knives that are maintainable by other people. And if there are parts in this that simply cannot be taken apart by somebody other than this guy, honestly, that's a design flaw. You need to make your knives maintainable. I'm a big fan of, maintenance and things like that. Maybe I'm a zealot in this way, but this really does bug the crap out of me. And I hope that he, sees the light and starts moving to more conventional fasteners in the future. Then finally, the last bit of ugly is that I honestly can't find any reference to this guy. I've searched for his name, which is pretty unique, and I found some references on Blade forums. I found a defunct blog spot, which led to a defunct Facebook, but I just don't know where this guy is gone. So, if any of you out there know how to get in touch with this guy, I'm kind of curious, and I'd love to see him have a website to sell these stuff, because this is some pretty quality stuff, and it's sad that you can't buy it. So that's your ugly. The clip just isn't so swinging. The bead blasting stayed way too long at the fair. And the bits that prevent disassembly are always ugly, but especially ugly from a one-man shop out in South Africa someplace. And then finally, just can't find the guy. Let's move on to the conclusion here. One final bit of information that will make this knife blow you away a little bit, and that's that this guy has made a total of 14 knives. Holy crap. I mean, seriously. Okay, there were a couple of rookie mistakes here. The clip, the blasting, and the disassembly issue. But if this is knife number 14, can you imagine what knife 140 is going to look like from this guy? I mean, he's getting all the hardest parts right. He's got the geometry locked in. He's got the sound locked in. He's got the flipping action. Holy crap. And I mean, the blades he's made. This is a really incredible showing for number 14. And so I'm just really amazed, and so I hope that this guy keeps it up and builds himself more of a presence, either online at the Blade Show or even just a forum on the Blade forums or something like that. I would love to see more of this guy's work, and I would personally be interested in maybe a custom off of this guy just based on the power of this alone. So, but I can't find him. It's like he's just barely exists in the knife world. So if anybody knows him, point him this way, or just put in the comments how the heck to get in touch with the guy these days, because this guy needs a lot more profile than he's got. And this just reminds me that in many ways the world is a magnificent place. Some random jackass in Pretoria can create a really excellent knife like this completely under the knife world's radar. And it's just a reminder that, you can't discount the little guys. If my buddy Mike had said, well, I got a custom, but it's, by a guy who's only done 14 knives, my first thought's going to be, oh, well, okay, whatever. But he just threw it in the package, and holy crap, I'm blown away. So Marthinus, well freaking done. Good job. Keep up the good work, and everybody else, keep an eye out for the next Marthinus out in your neck of the woods. And if you happen to find them, hey, let me know. Have yourselves an absolutely wonderful rest of your day. Bye now.